Continuing on the series of piercing jewelry basics, the fourth installment, we're going to talk about jewelry styles. All the different ones that I can possibly think of. Coming up next on Body Piercing Basics, episode number 147. For those that are new to the channel, welcome to the Body Piercing and Tattooing channel. Hope you're enjoying the videos. Hope you're finding them helpful and useful, but you might not know who I am. My name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I own and operate the Axiom Body Piercing Studio, located right here in Des Moines, Iowa, inside Skin Kitchen Tattoo. Okay, we're going to talk about every type of jewelry style that I can possibly think of today. And this is various different styles and types. I've kind of broken it up into different categories. Some of these I will have photos of. Some I won't, just basically because I don't stock it. And I don't always feel a little uncomfortable putting other people's photos up, especially since most of them come from jewelry manufacturers. We're going to start out with circular jewelry and the piece of jewelry that pretty much built the body piercing industry, and that's a catty bead ring. Basically, it's a ring with a segment cut out, and then the ball kind of locks in there. Segment rings, basically the same thing, except usually it's like a piece of that ring has been removed, and then two pins have been placed on both sides, and it locks in where that opening is. Seamless ring. Not really seamless. Basically, it's a piece of metal that is bent in a perfect circle that has two ends that meet, usually flat against each other, and there's a little bit of a gap there, which is one of the reasons why there's problems with them. To put them in and out, you have to bend them at kind of like a corkscrew, put them in and then bend them back. Kind of similar to a seamless ring is the beaded ring. This has a ball on one side and then a blunt end on the other side. Usually the non-ball side kind of fits into a dimple that's on the side of the ball. Hinged rings, a very modern thing that's used by most manufacturers nowadays. There's a section of it that pops open on a hinge and then locks back into place. Makes it really easy to change jewelry, used on a wide variety of piercings once they are healed. Clickers. This is one where I didn't know where exactly to put it. It kind of fits in. It's basically the same concept as a ring or a hinge ring is. The only difference is the section that goes inside the piercing is usually perfectly flat and straight. Opens up, put thread through, and then close. Nostril nails. Anybody that's ever owned one of these knows how frustrating they are. Basically, this is almost a complete circle with a disc on one end. You're supposed to thread the jewelry through the inside of your nose and then out so that disc sets on the inside and it looks like your ring goes all the way through. Circular barbells, very common, kind of a workhorse of the piercing industry, using lots of different piercings. Basically, the way these work is they are a circular area and usually about a quarter of it's cut out of that circle, and then you have two balls that thread on to both sides of the ends, or both ends. And the last one, screwball rings. These aren't very common, but they're really nice if you're into really thick jewelry and you really want to have that ring look. Basically, they are shaped like a ring, of course, and then one side, it's got the segment cut out, just like a catty bead ring, except one side has threading, so you can thread a ball in there. So it looks like a catty bead ring, but in reality, it's more like a barbell. Easier to take in and out. Now let's move on to standard posts. Starting off with the most common and most used would be the threaded barbell. This is basically a post of various different lengths, straight, of course, or standard. Both ends unscrew. Better if it's internally threaded, meaning the ball has a piece of threading that threads into the end of the barbell, but that's probably one of the most common versions. The other version of that is a threadless, which is a push pin style piece of jewelry. It has a piece of wire that comes off of it. The post itself is hollow. The wire is slightly bent. You push it in, it expands and creates friction, so it stays in place. The advantage to it is if you have shaped, if you have ends like that you want to face one direction, You can do that very easily, adjust it, and not have to worry about when you tighten it on, one's this way and one's that way. Threaded Libre studs. Basically, these are a disc on one side, then a post, of course, and then you have a ball that threads in much the same way exactly the same way that a barbell works. There are threadless versions of this, and this is a very extremely widely used piece of jewelry. It's used on ear piercings, a majority of them, nostril piercings. They can be used on oral piercings, but they're kind of one of those hit or miss situations because they're not quite as secure as the threaded version. But the threadless ones can be used, I guess, if you're careful. Basically works exactly the way I described the threadless barbells, except it has a disc on one side and then a post. Sometimes the disc in the back can be detachable, either threaded or threadless. It really depends on the manufacturer. It depends on where you bought your jewelry at and how they put that piece of jewelry together. Next up is nostril pins. This is just basically usually a gem setting of some sort, and then it has a piece of wire that comes off that. The design is you just put it in your nose and hope to God that it doesn't fall out in a nostril piercing. Other version of that's the nostril bone. It has a ball on one end and then a gem setting on the other side. They go in fairly easy, and supposedly that ball is going to keep it from falling out. Sometimes it'll keep it from being able to remove the jewelry very easily because the piercing hole will kind of squeeze shut a little bit, and that ball is a little too big, and then you have to kind of just yank it out of there and hope for the best. One other thing I would put in here is Christina posts or clitoral hood posts. These are kind of they're like a hybrid between a service barbell and a regular barbell. Basically, they're L-shaped with the shallow, or the top will have a disc on it, and then it'll go down, and then it has a gem setting of some sort on the other side. I'm not really completely sold on these as being any better than just standard curved barbells in most of these cases, but it is a piece of jewelry that you may come across. Other ones, surface barbells. These are only used pretty much in the surface of surface piercings. They're flat, kind of with two either 100% vertical or at a slight angle, very short, and then have two ends that screw in. These are used on surface-to-surface piercings, which is not something I specialize in. And if you ever want to get any done, you need to find somebody that specializes in them. Now let's move on to curves. Most common on this is going to be curved barbells, either threaded or threadless. There are kind of two types with the threadless. There's the type that has the fixed ball on one end and the type that doesn't. And then there's also the type that has a fixed disc on one side. And those are more for doing piercings in areas like floating navels, etc., where you want a disc on one side and maybe a gem setting on the other side. The ball version comes in really handy when you're doing a fresh piercing, so you have one side that you don't have to worry about coming off. Makes it a little bit easier to deal with. Then there's threaded and threadless bent bars. Bent bars are a little bit different from curved barbells. Curved barbells are a perfect quarter turn. Bent barbells are bent at that kind of same angle. They have kind of the same, they take up about the same amount of room. There's both threaded and threadless, just like everything else. I'm going to put these in a separate category because they're kind of a little bit different. The curved navel barbells, these usually have a large fixed gem setting on the bottom and then a top that unscrews. They're a little bit different than normal curved barbells or bent barbells, but they follow that same pattern of a quarter turn. They just have a different setup, and usually both ends are not removable. Now let's talk about retainers, and I prefer glass retainers just so everybody knows. I don't suggest putting plastic in your body. So glass retainers are usually a piece of Pylex. They're completely biocompatible. They don't react to, they're not conductive to electricity. So they're a good choice for anybody that's going in for medical treatments or tests or anything else. There's kind of 3 or 4 different sizes or types. There's a type that has a disc on one side like a Libre, and there's the type that has a ball on one side. Then there's a type that has nothing on either side. It's just one piece, like a tube piece of glass. These are usually held in place by using rubber O-rings. Silicone's your best option, the clear ones. The black ones are kind of iffy, so to speak. And the designs that these come in, you have with the standard straight, you're going to have Libre style. You're also going to have ball, like barbell in type in some of them. And that's about it. Curved, flat back in the ones that don't have anything on it. There's also nostril screws, which we're going to get to nostril screws here in a little bit, and L-bends that are in the same shape. So there's a lot of different options to put stuff in piercings to keep them open for a short period of time or a long period of time if you're going through medical and you can't have metal in your body. So let's talk about the ones that don't fit into any category. Bent jewelry and etc. There's nostril screws. Nostril screws are they're kind of a piece of wire. They have a gem setting, then a piece of wire that's bent at a 90-degree angle and then curved like a U. The U section sits inside your nostril, and the straight section sits inside your nostril. The curve does, and the rest of it kind of just goes into the piercing, the flat part. Now, another version of this would be the L-bend. The only difference between the two is the L-bend is just shaped like an L. There's no curvature on the inside. Fishtail Libres, pretty old piercing that you're probably not going to come across very often. Kind of looks like an L-bend, almost exactly the same style, but instead of having a straight, the longer part isn't perfectly straight. It'll kind of curve. These were designed to be used on lower lip Libre piercings. Septum retainers. There's a couple different types. There's the type that looks just like a U. There's the type that look like is it Omni? They're kind of more shaped, I guess like Omega. I think it's Omega. I'll remember 20 minutes from now, or just put a comment in and correct me. They are designed to go into a septum piercing and be flipped up to make it harder for anybody to see that you have it, but keep the piercing open. They're not really used anywhere else other than septum. Dermal anchors. It's kind of like a Libre post. This has an offset foot that has areas of it cut out. These are used for microdermals. They're basically put under the tissue or under the dermal layer, and then tissue grows into those little holes. I did a whole video on dermals and why I don't like doing them and why I won't do them and everything else about them. But it is a piece of jewelry that I've seen people pierce other stuff with. So if you have kind of a weird, more oblong back instead of that perfect disc, that's what it is. It is a microdermal. Plugs. Plugs are a solid piece of material either in glass, metal, natural woods, horn, all kinds of different stuff. Usually we'll have maybe one side has like a section that trumpets outward or flanged, or has a flat area that sits on one side and then maybe an O-ring on the other side, or both sides are flanged. This is used primarily and almost 100% in ear piercings. Basically, like I said, it comes in a lot of different materials and a lot of different choices. The other thing would be eyelets. Eyelets are basically the same thing except they're hollow, so you can see through them. So it looks like there's nothing there. Woo! Hanging weights or keyholes and various other things. These are pieces of jewelry that are designed to put in a piercing and just kind of hang there. Usually done in larger gauge piercings to give more of a more traditional look to the jewelry and less of a plug, or, if you're bored with plugs and eyelets all the time. I believe that is all of them. If I missed any, leave a comment. We'll talk about it there. Till next time, here's hoping all your piercings heal with ease without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, I hope to see you for your body piercing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.